I'm not gonna lie. Red flags went up immediately. 1. This guy looked too old to be here. 2. He smelled like dookie. And 3.
Nightmare Files.
I live in Casper, Wyoming, and from the name of where I live, you know weird stuff was bound to happen occasionally. Well, this story happened in 2016 during my junior year of high school. I had a girlfriend whose parents just gave her a car for her 17th birthday. So one weekend, our parents let us go out to the cabin that our family owns. On our way there, she told me that it was a nice cabin and how she's been there so many times. She said it's pretty secluded. I thought that was weird. We walked down a long trail, across a small bridge, and back down another trail. This is in the middle of the day, so I could see pretty far out. And no lie, I saw a random clown nose in the middle of nowhere on the ground. I walked up to it, picked it up, and tossed it. We both looked at each other and laughed. And then I heard footsteps in the distance. I ignored it. I didn't know where we were. But she claimed that she knew. As I'm looking out into the wooded area, I saw someone peek from behind a thick tree and then get back right behind it. I stopped her from walking and I told her someone was out there with us. She told me not to worry, but I wasn't used to being out in the wilderness. I told her that I know what I saw and that there's definitely someone out here with us. Eventually, we stopped at some cabin. It's not really what I thought it would be, but it looked nice. It was like another house, honestly. It also had their family bikes in the back. I was worried that there were no other cabins around. She told me that there's security cameras all around this place, so to not worry. I brought some games to play because we knew it was going to rain and we would have to stay inside as it got dark outside. We snuck alcohol from our houses and brought it with us. The first night there, we drank a lot and pretty much passed out. I had weird dreams about this guy that I thought I saw in the wood, but he was dressed in a clown suit standing in the corner of our cabin just watching us at night. I probably thought that because of the whole clown pandemic that was going on in 2016. The next day, we went out hiking for a bit. When we got back, our door was open from the wind, being that it was pretty windy that day. At least that's what we thought. Again, on the second night, it began to rain when it became night, and at some point, we were watching TV, and then all the power went out. So we had no lights, nothing. And out of nowhere, lightning struck pretty close to us, and it lit up the whole area. I swear when that happened, I saw the silhouette of a person standing outside the window near the front door. We both saw the silhouette and ran to the door to make sure it was locked, and it wasn't. I locked it, and luckily I did because someone started to mess with the door handle. Once this guy noticed that we noticed him, he started to bang on the door. I started to yell for the man to stop, and then I hear, "I'm sorry, it was a prank. Can you let me in though?" I told him to leave us alone and that I have a gun. He then said, "No, you don't. You're only a kid." My girlfriend was calling the cops, and when she was done calling the cops, she called her dad and he began to look at the live security footage on his computer, and he told her to stay inside. He then began to drive here, but he stayed on the phone with her. It's not far from where we live, so he'll be here soon. The man began to check every window for entry, but there's bars on all the windows. He was eerily calm, and that freaked me out more than anything. Then he calmly walked away as the police lights approached within few minutes. Shortly after the cops arrived, my girl's father's dad arrived. When he came in, he yelled at us for drinking. We told the cops what we saw and what I saw in the woods. We went back to our house, and her father was looking through the footage from earlier that day and the night before. He called us in the room and showed us what he saw from the night before while we were asleep. This is what we saw. After investigating, the police found a hide site near the cabin. The man dug a hole in the ground big enough for him to lay down, and he had a platform made of wood, a blanket, and anything that could camouflage it. He made it so that anyone walking past wouldn't notice it. Anyways, there was more footage, but it's not available to show anymore. But the man walked inside the cabin. We were so drunk that we never even woke up. I guess the dream that I had was actually real because the camera shows that the man was inside the cabin for hours, watching us as he stood in the corner. If he wanted to, he could have killed us. I wonder what he planned to do that night that we called the cops. I'm glad we never found out. I have a friend who grew up in India. He recently went back to visit his family. He told me that his family and everyone from the area that he grew up in believe in stuff like skinwalkers, wendigos, witches, and even aliens. Anything considered paranormal, they definitely believe in it. So every time he goes back to visit his family, it will be for a special occasion, birthday, marriage, and other events. He told me that he would always stay with his cousin in his apartment because they're the same age and will go out partying all the time. But he lived in an awkward neighborhood. He'd always see weird stuff there. He told me that one night, he and a few friends with his cousins, they all went out, and they took it back to their apartment. They had fun there. The night was like any other Saturday night, especially with the alcohol consumption. Outside on the streets were also pretty busy in that area. It was downtown, so you could hear cars and people outside. It was definitely an unusually loud night though, but eventually everyone started to head out. My friend and his cousin began to watch a movie. It was a horror movie, so they cut off all the lights. There was a knock at the door at around 1:30 at night. My friend went to the door, peeked out, and asked if he needed something. The man looked to his left, looked back at the door, and told him that someone was acting weird near his car, and he needed to get down there. Then he walked away. My friend said thanks and told his cousin. To make things weirder, they heard some commotion outside, and then a woman screaming. That's when my friend took his phone out to record, and this is what they caught on camera. Once they looked out the window and saw the crowd, they ran downstairs to see what was going on. They saw everyone pointing towards something. Everyone kept saying the boot, the boot. It's spelled B-H-O-O-T. It's some kind of demon that they believe in that can take any form, from human or either animal. Once my friend and his cousin could see exactly what they were pointing at, they began to record on their phones again, and this is what they caught. Few people ran back there to where it jumped into, but nothing was there. To me, I can tell it wasn't human, but not sure if it was a monkey or not. From how weird that night was going at that point, that could have been anything. This happened in the summer of 2020. I work in the mall and come across some sketchy people pretty often. On this day though, I met this one guy who tops anyone that I've ever met. I was walking around the store that I work in, which is usually filled with younger people. It's H&M if you're wondering. I happen to be in the women's section when some guy appears out of nowhere and says, "Hi Jade." I didn't see this guy walk up. I also wear a name tag, so I didn't think too much of him even knowing my name. I jumped, and he said, "I'm sorry. People usually never see me coming until it's too late." I thought that was the most awkward thing you could say to anybody. I'm not gonna lie. Red flags went up immediately. 1, this guy looked too old to be here. 2, he smelled like dookie. And 3, he had creep written all over him. Before I thought it couldn't get any worse, he asked me what time I got off. I told him that was none of his business and tried to walk away, but he grabbed me by my arm and he said he was sorry. I told him it's fine and I walked away. A few hours later, I clocked out and began to walk to my car, and I saw the same guy standing in the shadow near my car. I think he thought that he was hiding and I couldn't see him. So I went back inside and I asked one of my co-workers to walk me to the car, one of my male co-workers. When we got back outside, the man was gone. By the time I got to my apartment, I forgot all about this guy. About an hour after getting to my apartment, my friend comes over and we were just relaxing, doing what girls do, when we heard what sounded like small rocks hitting my window. We didn't react to it until it continued for about 5 minutes. I looked out the window, and downstairs near the gate was some man. I grabbed my phone, and this is what I recorded.
Okay, someone is throwing rocks at my window right now. I don't know who this guy is, and he's telling me to come up to the gate. What the fuck? Bro, Sayla, should we call somebody? What is he doing, bro? What is he doing? I don't like this.
Can I help you?
Sayla, what the fuck?
Wait. I have something for you. I see you in the morning.
No?
After looking at the guy for a minute, maybe a minute or two, I noticed that he was the same guy from earlier, but he changed his clothes for some reason. That's when I called the cops. We didn't tell him that we were calling the cops. We actually kept yelling back and forth so he wouldn't leave before the cops got there. Once they arrested him, they told us that this guy made up a story that I was his girlfriend and we met at the mall a few days ago. He even mentioned what I had on when we met, and it was exactly what I had on a few days ago, but I only met this guy today. This was hard for me to stomach because I came to the realization that he's been watching me for days. I don't know. If you ever have suspicious feeling about someone, always